when a 68-year-old woman accidentally hears her daughter's cruel voice message calling her a needy burden she doesn't confront her. Instead, she quietly disappears, using a secret nest egg to build a new life by the sea, forcing her family to face the void she left behind. The evening light in Eleanor Thompson's cottage was the color of weak tea, fading into the dusty gold of late autumn. At 68, she had learned to measure time not by clocks, but by the quality of light through her west-facing window. The way it painted the pine floorboards in long, melancholic rectangles before surrendering to twilight. This particular Thursday, the light felt thinner than usual, a precursor to the long winter she both dreaded and accepted. With the weary grace of a seasoned New Englander, her cottage, a charming if compact one-bedroom structure with a gabled roof and green shutters, sat exactly 87 paces from the back porch of her daughter's colonial-style house. Eleanor had counted them many times. It was a distance that felt symbolic, close enough to be convenient, far enough to maintain the illusion of independence. The cottage had been Mark's idea, presented 5 years ago at the kitchen table of her old house, the one she'd shared with Robert for 42 years. "It just makes sense, Elle," Mark had said, his hand covering Sarah's on the polished oak. "The property has that old guest cottage. It needs work, but we'll fix it up. You'll be right there with the kids, and you won't have the burden of the big house. We can sell it, free up some capital." His tone was all practical kindness, the same tone he used when explaining mortgage refinancing or college savings plans. Sarah, her eyes bright with unshed tears, had nodded vigorously. "It'll be better for everyone, Mom. We worry about you here all alone." Eleanor had looked from her daughter's pleading face to the empty chair where Robert used to sit, and she had felt the walls of her home, filled with a lifetime of memories, simultaneously press in and recede. The silence after his death from a swift, brutal pancreatic cancer had become a physical presence, a third occupant in every room. The offer, though it scraped against her pride, felt like a lifeline thrown into choppy waters. She took it. Now she stirred a spoonful of local honey into her chamomile tea, the ceramic mug warm against her palms. From her window, she could see the warm glow of the kitchen and the big house. Sarah was moving about, probably preparing dinner. 7-year-old Lily would be doing homework at the table, her brow furrowed in concentration, just like her grandfather's. 4-year-old Ben would be underfoot, likely piloting a toy truck across the floor. Eleanor had offered to cook, as she did most nights, but Sarah had demurred. "We're fine tonight, Mom. Just leftovers. Take a night off." The phrase "take a night off" had prickled. It implied her help was a job, a scheduled duty. "Don't be sensitive, Eleanor." She didn't mean it like that. Her phone, an iPhone, Sarah and Mark had insisted she upgrade to stay connected, buzzed on the woven table runner. A blue voice message icon pulsed next to Sarah's name. That was odd. Sarah never sent voice messages. She was a texter, a master of concise, emoji-punctuated communication. Probably a quick reminder about Lily's dentist appointment tomorrow, Eleanor thought, setting her mug down. She fumbled slightly with her reading glasses, perched them on her nose, and pressed play. The voice that filled her quiet cottage was Sarah's, but not the daughter she knew. Sarah, this voice was low, strained, vibrating with a frustration so visceral it seemed to warp the audio. "Mark, I swear to God, if Mom doesn't stop hovering, I'm going to completely lose it." A heavy sigh, the sound of a car door closing in the background. Sarah must have been in her minivan thinking she'd called her husband. It's like living under a microscope. "She was at the sink today when I got home, rewashing the dishes I just loaded into the dishwasher. Just a quick rinse, sweetie. The detergent works better. And last night, it was a full lecture because Ben was watching 20 minutes of cartoons before bed. They're developing minds, Sarah. All that blue light, like I'm some negligent monster." Eleanor's breath hitched. Her hand flew to her chest. Sarah's voice continued, a torrent now, and she's been dropping these not-so-subtle hints about money again, asking if the property taxes went up this year, mentioning how her old neighbor's kids pay her a rental stipend for her basement apartment. It's like she thinks we owe her for moving here. We gave her a home, for Christ's sake. A completely renovated home. She's turning into this constant needy burden. The emotional toll is exhausting. We need to talk about it. Seriously, talk. My friend Julie's mom is at Cedar Ridge Assisted Living, and she says it's lovely. They have activities, people our own age. We can't keep pretending this is working. I can't take it anymore. Call me back. There was a sharp, staticky pause. Then Sarah's voice again, now high with panic. Oh shit, no, Mom! I gasped, inhale. Then the message cut off. Silence. It was a thick, suffocating silence. That swallowed the gentle hum of Eleanor's refrigerator and the distant tick of her mantel clock. The words hung in the air, toxic and undeniable. Hovering. Negligent monster. Needy burden. Assisted living. Eleanor sat perfectly still. The trembling started deep in her core, a seismic shockwave that traveled out to her extremities. Her hands, lying flat on the table, began to quiver. She watched them as if they belonged to someone else. The sting was immediate and profound, a white-hot lance straight through the careful armor of her self-worth. But beneath the sting, something colder and heavier settled, a devastating, absolute clarity. Burden. The word echoed. It stripped away the narrative of the past 5 years, the narrative of a loving family coming together, of mutual support, of a gracious acceptance of help. It revealed the brittle truth underneath, a transaction. She provided free childcare, cooking, and gardening. They provided a roof. And now the balance of payments was in dispute. Tears blurred the warm light from the big house into a watery yellow smudge. They welled up, hot and insistent, but she clenched her jaw, a habit from a childhood, where showing weakness was not permitted. No, you will not cry over this. Not yet. She took off her glasses, folded them neatly, and set them beside the phone. The action was calm, deliberate, a part of her mind, the pot that had run a household, balanced budgets, and nursed a dying husband, was already detaching, assessing the damage. She replayed the message. Then again, each time a different phrase clawed at her. Needy burden after she had given up her book club, her yoga class, her weekly lunches with friends from the old neighborhood, to be closer to family. After she had sold the home Robert built for them, dispersed its history into boxes and storage, and presented a cheerful face for the grandchildren. After she had silently absorbed a 1,000 tiny criticisms about her cooking a bit salty for the kids, Mom, her parenting advice, things are different now, her very presence, the final blow, Cedar Ridge Assisted Living. She knew it. A beige, sprawling facility off the highway with a manicured but soulless lawn. A place for people whose stories were over, who were waiting out the final chapters in safe, sterilized rooms. Sarah had already been scouting. This wasn't a fleeting frustration. It was a plan in its infancy. A strange calm began to seep through the shock. It was the calm of a soldier who, upon seeing the enemy's true position, finally understands the battle. The pretense was over. The polite fiction of her valued place here was shattered, and in its place, a stark, liberating emptiness. She didn't sleep. She sat in her armchair as night deepened, watching the moon trace its path across the small square of sky above the pine trees. Memories, unbidden, flickered, not of Sarah as a demanding, frustrated woman, but of Sarah as a little girl, clutching Eleanor's leg at a crowded beach, trusting her completely. Of Robert whispering, "You're the strongest person I know." Elia in a hospital room lit by a pale dawn. That strength felt like a phantom limb now, but the memory of its sensation sparked something by. The time the first dirty gray light of dawn bleached the darkness. The shock had crystallized into a resolution. A plan, audacious and terrifying, had formed in her mind. It was not a plan of confrontation, of tearful accusations. That would only lead to more patronizing assurances, more hidden resentment. It was not even a plan of revenge, though a sharp, bitter part of her acknowledged the satisfaction it would bring. It was a plan of disappearance, of silent, strategic retreat. A plan Sarah, in her wildest, most frustrated dreams, could never have imagined. The morning was crisp, the grass silvered with a light frost. Eleanor moved through her cottage with a methodical efficiency she hadn't felt in years. She took a shower, dressed in her most comfortable traveling clothes, dark slacks, a cashmere sweater, a practical but stylish coat. She made her bed with hospital corners, as always. In the kitchen, she wrote a note on the cream-colored stationery Robert had given her for her 60th birthday. Her handwriting was steady, a graceful cursive that betrayed none of the turmoil inside. Taking a little trip to clear my head, need some space to think. Don't worry about me. I'll be in touch when I'm settled. Love, Mom. Don't worry about me. The phrase was perfect. It was what one said to be kind, but it would ring like a gong of guilt in Sarah's ears. I'll be in touch when I'm settled. It promised future communication, but gave no parameters, no timeline. It was a sentence that took back control. She propped the note against the sugar canister on the kitchen counter, a place Sarah would find it if she came looking. Then she packed, not the large, wheeled suitcase from the attic, but a single, high-quality carry-on sheet, bought for a long-anticipated trip to Italy that Robert's illness had stolen. Into it, she placed only the essentials, practical clothes, her best jewelry, her mother's pearls, her wedding band, the diamond studs Robert gave her on their 30th anniversary, her passport, and a small, locked fireproof box. From beneath a loose floorboard, under her bared a hiding spot that felt melodramatic, but now seemed prescient. She retrieved the contents of the box, financial documents, the deed to the sold house, and a bank book for an account Sarah knew nothing about. Robert, pragmatic and private to his core, had insisted they maintain a separate rainy day fund, invested conservatively. Never put all your eggs in one basket, Ellie, especially not a basket held by someone else, he'd said, not unkindly, but with the wisdom of a man who'd seen families fracture over money. The proceeds from her house sale, beyond what she'd given to Sarah and Mark for the cottage renovation, had gone here. It was not a fortune, but it was enough for independence. She had felt a vague guilt about the secrecy, a sense that it betrayed the family unity she was supposed to believe in. Now, she felt only profound gratitude for her husband's foresight. At 9:05 a.m., she called a rideshare. She did not look back as the car pulled down the gravel drive. She instructed the driver to take her to the regional airport. But at a busy intersection near a large hotel, she changed her mind. Actually, just here is fine. From the hotel, she took a taxi to the Amtrak station. She bought a ticket with cash, heading south. She switched trains twice, a maneuver learned from spy novels, her heart pounding with a strange, fearful exhilaration. She was a ghost, erasing her own trail. Sarah discovered the note just before noon. She'd come over, her stomach a knot of anxiety and shame from the accidental message sent over 12 hours ago. She'd tried calling her mother's phone 3 times, each going straight to voicemail. She'd rehearsed an apology, a stumbling explanation about stress, about taking things out of context. The empty cottage, cool and unnaturally still, stopped her in her doorway. "Mom?" The silence answered. Her eyes scanned the tidy living room and landed on the note. As she read it, her face drained of color. The words "clear my head" and "space" mirrored her own damning complaints with a devastating precision. This wasn't a trip to her friends. This was a rebuke. a chillingly calm one. "Mark!" she yelled, though he was at the office miles away. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers clumsy. "Mark, she's gone." Mom's left. The next 48 hours were a cyclone of panic. Mark, ever the problem solver, immediately took charge. He called the local police, but they were politely unmoved. She's a competent adult who left a note saying she was going on a trip. There's no evidence of foul play. We can't file a missing persons report yet. He tracked her iPhone using the family location sharing she'd reluctantly agreed to. The signal last pinged near the airport before going dead. Eleanor, it turned out, had remembered how to disable location services after a helpful lesson from Lily. The airport lead was a dead end. No Eleanor Thompson had boarded any commercial flight that day. Sarah was paralyzed by a corrosive mix of fear and guilt. She replayed her own voice message in her head on a continuous, torturous loop. She imagined her mother listening to it, alone in the cottage, each word a knife twist. The image was unbearable. She tried calling Eleanor's phone dozens of times, her messages evolving from "Mom, call me, please," to "I'm so sorry, you have to believe me, it wasn't what I meant," to finally a tear-choked whisper, "Please just let me know you're safe." She drove to the homes of Eleanor's few remaining local friends, swallowing her pride to ask if they'd seen her. Their polite concern felt judgmental. "She didn't mention anything to me, Sarah. Is everything all right at home?" The question was a minefield. Meanwhile, the practical machinery of their lives, which had relied so heavily on Eleanor's silent labor, ground to a jarring halt. Lily missed her bus because no one was there to ensure her backpack was packed. Ben had a meltdown at daycare because his favorite blanket, which Eleanor usually washed and returned on Thursdays, was still dirty. Dinner was chaotic, expensive takeout eaten amidst toys and homework clutter. The house, without Eleanor's discreet daily tidying, descended into chaos within 2 days. Sarah, trying to do it all, felt herself fraying at the edges. The very burden she had complained of was revealed to be the load-bearing, a wall of her daily existence. And now the structure was cracking. Mark, frustrated by the emotional drama and the sudden domestic incompetence, grew short-tempered. How could she just vanish like this? It's incredibly irresponsible. And what about the money? Did she have resources we don't know about? His questions, though practical, felt like betrayals to Sarah, highlighting a financial subtext she was desperate to avoid. 1 week after the disappearance, Sarah sat at her mother's pristine kitchen table in the cottage, now a museum of absence. She traced the grain of the wood with a finger. She opened the cupboard and saw the tea her mother drank, the honey from a local farm. It was then she noticed the empty space on the small bookshelf, where a photo album used to be, the one labeled "College" in the absence of the good suitcase from the hall closet. This was not a spur-of-the-moment flight. This was planned. Her mother had packed, taken mementos, and executed an exit. The realization was a new kind of cold shock. This wasn't just a reaction. It was a response, a strategic, deliberate act of withdrawal. The mother Sarah thought she knew accommodating, slightly fading, eager to please, was capable of this. Who then had she been living with? Eleanor got off the train in a small, sun-drenched city on the Gulf Coast of Florida. The air, even in November, was soft and warm, carrying the scent of salt and blooming oleander. It was a sensory shock after the sharp, leafless austerity of home. She took a cab to a modest, clean hotel near the historic district, paying for a week in advance with a credit card attached to her secret account. For the first 3 days, she did nothing but rest. She slept 10 hours a night, the deep, dreamless sleep of the profoundly exhausted. She ate fruit from a nearby market, sat on a bench by the marina watching pelicans dive, and allowed the sun to bake the lingering chill from her bones. The guilt tried to creep in, images of Lily's confused face, Ben's small arms around her neck, but she gently, firmly pushed it away. You have to put on your own oxygen mask first. A therapist had told her years ago after Robert died. She was finally belatedly obeying. On the fourth day, she contacted Margaret Maggs Callahan. Maggs had been her roommate sophomore and junior year at Boston College. They were opposites. Eleanor was orderly and studious. Maggs was a whirlwind of artistic passion and rebellious energy. They'd bonded over a shared love of Edith Wharton and cheap red wine. Life had pulled them apart. Marriages, careers, geography, but they'd maintained a thread of Christmas cards and the occasional long phone call. Maggs, widowed young, had moved south a decade ago. Her last card had an address in this very city. Eleanor Thompson, as I live and breathe. Maggs's voice, unchanged after 45 years, boomed through the phone. Don't you dare tell me you're in town. An hour later, they were seated at a wrought iron table on Maggs's screened lounge. Overlooking a canal, Maggs, her hair a brilliant silver bob, wore a flowing kaftan and studied Eleanor with sharp painter's eyes. Eleanor told her everything. The move, the unspoken contract, the voice message. She played it for her, saying the words aloud. Hearing the damning recording in this bright, foreign place was both terrifying and cathartic. Maggs listened without interruption. When it ended, she reached across the table and gripped Eleanor's hand. Her own was speckled with paint, strong and warm. Well, good for you, she said decisively. Eleanor blinked. Good for me? For getting the hell out. For hearing the truth and acting on it. Most people spend their lives pretending not to hear. Now, what's your plan? And don't say you don't have one. The Eleanor I knew always had a plan. With Maggs as an enthusiastic and well-connected ally, the plan accelerated from fantasy to reality. Maggs introduced her to a no-nonsense realtor friend. Eleanor wasn't interested in a retirement community or a sprawling condo complex. She wanted a home. They looked at a dozen places. But when Eleanor walked into a ground floor, two-bedroom condo in a quiet, well-maintained 1970s building 3 blocks from the beach, she knew. It had terracotta tile floors, windows that flooded the space with light, and a small walled garden where she could grow herbs. The kitchen was outdated but serviceable. It felt like a place where a new story could be written. Using her secret fund, she made a cash offer. The process was swift. She hired a contractor. Maggs recommended to update the bathrooms and paint. She furnished it sparingly, but well. Shopping at local consignment stores and flea markets with Maggs. Discovering a forgotten pleasure in choosing things purely for her own taste. Not for durability against grandchildren or approval from Sarah. She established a new life with deliberate care. She got a local bank account and a library card. She joined the community center, signing up for a watercolor class. Her hands, used to practical tasks, trembled at first over the paper, but the joy of creating something useless and beautiful was intoxicating. She volunteered 2 mornings a week at a nearby animal shelter, walking dogs and socializing kittens. The unconditional, simple affection of the animals was a balm. She also joined a memoir writing group, sitting in a circle with other people, most of them also in the later chapters of their lives. She began to tentatively write about Robert, about her parents, about the quiet joys and frustrations of motherhood. She didn't share the chapter about the message. Not yet, but writing around it helped contain its power. One afternoon, as she was planting rosemary and lavender in her garden, her phone rang. It was a number from her hometown. She let it go to voicemail. It was Mark, his voice strained with a forced calm. Eleanor, it's Mark. We need to talk. This has gone on long enough. We're worried sick. There are practical matters to discuss. Please call me back. The message felt like a summons from a disappointed principal. She deleted it. The final step in her financial security was consulting a lawyer, a friend of Maggs's who specialized in elder law. She drew up a new will and established a trust. A portion of her remaining funds would eventually go into college accounts for Lily and Ben, but they were structured to be untouchable by Sarah and Mark until the children came of age. The rest would ensure her own care should she need it. The lawyer also helped her draft a clear, unemotional letter to Sarah and Mark, sent via certified mail, stating that she was safe, of sound mind, and had established legal residence elsewhere. She included contact information for her lawyer for any necessary communications. It was the ultimate bureaucratic boundary. 3 months after Eleanor's disappearance, Sarah was a ghost of her former self. The house was in a state of permanent disarray. She had cut back her hours at work, her career momentum stalling. Her relationship with Mark was a minefield of unspoken accusations and simmering resentment. The children were confused and often asked for Grandma. Every time Sarah looked at the cottage, now dark and empty, she felt a physical ache of guilt and loss. A private investigator, hired by Mark in a last-ditch effort, finally found a lead. A credit check showed a new account opened in Florida. A search of property records revealed the purchase of a condo by an Eleanor Thompson. Bingo. Mark wanted to call the lawyer, whose name was on the certified letter they'd received. Letter that had felt like a legal slap in the face, but Sarah knew that was a dead end. This required a personal pilgrimage. She booked a flight, her heart a drum of dread and desperate hope. The Florida sunlight felt mocking as her taxi wound through streets lined with palm trees and colorful bungalows. She found the address, a pale pink building with a tiled roof. It looked cheerful, settled, nothing like the sterile assisted living facilities she had once mentioned. The door opened and there was her mother, but not her mother. This Eleanor had a tan. She wore a turquoise linen tunic over white capris, and her silver hair was cut in a stylish, easy bob. She looked younger, lighter. There was no trace of the anxious, hovering tension that had seemed to define her in the cottage. Her eyes meeting Sarah's were calm and clear, like still water. "Sarah?" Eleanor said. Not, "Oh my God," not, "You found me." Just her name, an acknowledgement. "Mom." The word came out as a sob. Sarah stepped forward, instinctively reaching for an embrace. But Eleanor took a subtle half-step back, holding the door as a partial barrier. The rejection was gentle but absolute. "Come in," Eleanor said, turning and walking into the bright living room. Sarah followed, her eyes taking in the space. It was full of lights, simply but elegantly decorated. Paintings, some clearly amateur but vibrant, hung on the walls. One was a decent seascape signed E.W.E.A. Thompson. Books were piled on a side table. A cat, a fat ginger Tom, snoozed in a patch of sun on the tile floor. This was not a temporary hideout. This was a home. A life. How are you?" Sarah stammered, sitting on the edge of a linen-covered sofa. "I'm very well, thank you," Eleanor said, sitting opposite her in a comfortable-looking armchair. She did not offer tea. "The children? They're okay. They miss you." Eleanor nodded, a flicker of pain crossing her face, but it was quickly mastered. "I miss them too. I send cards to them, you know. Care of the house. I trust they get them." Sarah flushed. She had intercepted the first 2. Beautiful postcards with short, loving notes. Unsure what to do with them. "Yes, they have them." Silence hung between them, thick and awful. "Mom, I am so sorry," Sarah burst out, the tears finally coming. "That message? It was the worst moment of my life. I was stressed. I was in the car after a horrible day. I was just venting to Mark. I didn't mean it. Not like that. You're not a burden. You're my mother. We need you. Please come home." Eleanor listened patiently, her hands folded in her lap. When Sarah's plea faded into hiccuping sobs, she spoke, her voice quiet but unwavering. "Sarah, I heard you. Not just the words. but the truth behind them, the resentment that had been building for a long time. You were right about one thing: the arrangement wasn't working. I had become a tenant in my daughter's life. My worth measured in chores performed and inconvenience has not caused. I had lost myself. We can fix it, Sarah cried. We can set boundaries. We can talk more. No, Eleanor said, and the word was kind but immovable in stone. The time for fixing that is past. You needed space? You have it. And in giving it to you, I found something I thought was gone forever. Myself? She leaned forward slightly. Look at this place, Sarah. This is my home. I chose it. I have friends here. I paint terribly but with great joy. I grow things. I have a life that is mine, not an annex to yours. For the first time since your father died, I am not lonely. I am alone, and there is a world of difference. So you're just abandoning us? Abandoning your grandchildren? The accusation slipped out, sharp with pain. Eleanor didn't flinch. I am not abandoning anyone. I am living, and I will be a part of Lily and Ben's lives, but on terms that are healthy for all of us. They are welcome to visit me here. You and Mark are welcome too, as guests in my home. But I will not be moving back into that cottage. That chapter is closed. Sarah felt the finality of it like a door shutting. This was not a negotiation. Her mother, this serene, confident stranger, had moved on. The power dynamic had irrevocably shifted. The parent was no longer the dependent one. What do I tell people? Sarah whispered, a last pathetic grasp for the old rules of appearances. Eleanor almost smiled. Tell them the truth, that your mother, in her late 60s, ran away to the beach and is living happily ever after. It's a better story, don't you think? Sarah left an hour later, her pleas exhausted, her understanding still incomplete, but forced to accept the new reality. Eleanor walked her to the door. As Sarah stepped out into the humid afternoon, she turned. I am sorry, Mom, for everything. Eleanor's expression softened, for the first time showing the full depth of the hurt, but also the strength that had grown from it. I know you are, dear, and I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It means moving forward. She closed the door with a gentle but definitive click. Inside, Eleanor leaned against it, letting out a long, slow breath. The encounter had been more draining than she'd anticipated. She walked at her garden window and looked out at her herbs, vibrant in the sun. She thought of Sarah's devastated face, and her heart ached. But beneath the ache was a solid, unshakable foundation of certainty. She had chosen herself, and in doing so, she had not broken her family, but had finally established its boundaries on honest, if painful, ground. The plan, born from a single, devastating message, had not been for revenge. It had been for sovereignty, and as she picked up her paintbrush to dab color onto a half-finished canvas of the sea, Eleanor Thompson, artist, volunteer, gardener, friend, knew she had won it.